Hi everyone, it's Murray Dawson back, maybe, hopefully, for the last time. So recently there's been a lot of self-congratulations regarding the Waimea Dam, securing our future, etc, etc. The Waimea Dam should never have been built. The whole concept behind it, water shortage, is not true. So in this video I'm going to go over the justification for the statement I made, which is basically that the Waimea Plains have a vast amount of water. The water resource is very, very adequate. Right, so let's consider the river firstly. The first issue I'm going to deal with is what effect pumpage from the aquifer, the groundwater, has on the flow of the rivers. A report has presented a formula which I suppose shows that how much water comes from the river when you pump from the ground. This report is demonstrably deficient. It doesn't match actual measurements of river loss compared to groundwater pumpage. So basically that can be dismissed. Really, the amount of water taken from the river by pumpage from the groundwater is minor. Right, so let's now consider the other issue that Tasman District Council needs to manage abstractions from the river during dry periods so as to maintain a targeted minimum flow rate. So then some river augmentation is needed. In other words, water will need to be stored to provide Waimea East with adequate water when there's a dry period. So this spreadsheet here shows how much water is needed to provide water security for 19 years out of 20. No rationing for 19 years out of 20. So I've taken the driest summer since 2001, which was the summer of 2019, 10 weeks of rationing up to level 4. So that was a fairly severe rationing period. And as I've highlighted in yellow on the bottom of the table, they need something in the order of 550,000 cubes, just over 500,000 cubes, to supply them with water security for 19 years out of 20. So quite conveniently, there was one of the original proposed sites was some 4 kilometres by road from Waimea East, the mouth of the Roding River where it meets the Lee. So how much would it cost to store in the order of over 500,000 cubes at the site? Well, we can get an indication of that. The Kainui Dam up 88 Valley Road was completed in 2006 at a cost of $3.4 million. So allowing inflation on a construction price inflator, this dam on the Roding today will cost in the order of some $6 million. So now let's look at the groundwater resource, the aquifers. So shown here are some of the freshwater management units on the Waimea Plains. Essentially there's 2 or 3 depending how you look at it. There's the Appleby Gravels, which are shown there, the unconfined aquifer, and there are 2 confined aquifers. The upper one, which rejoins the main aquifer at the Appleby Bridge, and the lower confined one which exits somewhere off the Tasman coast. So how adequate is the unconfined aquifer? This is essentially a flowing aquifer like an underground river, and the minimum flow rate for this during 2001, a very dry period, was 8,000 litres a second. Typically it's about 10,000 litres a second over summer. So how much water was taken from that? On the peak, 500 litres a second, typically less than that. So that means some 5 or 6% of the minimum or low flow rate is taken during a dry summer, hardly challenging the aquifer's capacity to supply water. Now let's look at the confined aquifers. 2 of them, essentially they are the same. So we have the upper and lower confined aquifer. These are very, very slow flowing, so the best way of characterising their capacity to supply water is to look at the volumes. So the right hand bars show the volumes and the left hand bars show the demands made upon them. So the right hand one, the upper confined aquifer, is only used by irrigators, and you can see the absolutely minor amount of water they take from that over the irrigation period. On the left is the lower confined aquifer, which is used by urban supply and the irrigators. Once again, you can see the demand made upon this aquifer is very, very minor. So here's the thing. The whole flaw in the understanding the water resources from the plains is this issue of sustainable yield. So allocations are based on sustainable yield. There is no evidence anywhere, and I've been reading this for 10 years, of how sustainable yield has been derived, how it's been calculated. So they had a plan change in 2015, and no mention of how sustainable yield was calculated was shown there. They effectively halved the allocations. So this table shows Delta, for example, went from 1,000 litres a second down to 420. This is a major shortcoming, in my opinion, that the staff, Tasman District Council, have not supplied any evidence as to how they are measuring sustainable yield of the groundwater. And I'll mention here salt, which is a complete and utter red herring. It has never exceeded the Ministry of Health recommended levels. Never. The only time it has been detected in a minor way was a monitoring bore close to the river, which detected salt coming up the river and seeping downwards. It was not in the aquifer. Right, a couple of things to note here. The grey bar, the grey line is projected urban demand from 2015 to 2054 or so, and the blue line is the actual pumpages from 2004 up to 2024. One thing to note, the dotted blue line is the trend line, so somewhat surprisingly, urban demand is trending downwards. So what can't be seen on this, and I'll look at in the next slide, is that we can work out the projected increase in demand over the next few decades. So this is a slight repeat of what I just said, but this is from the agenda of Tasman District Council meeting in 2015, saying that they could supply the annual expected increase, projected increase, with a bore, and it would probably supply the amount of water needed. And once again, they say it would need investigating, and they decided not to do it. Alright, so what are the options for catering for future urban demand without having the Waimea Dam? Well, here's a copy of a table presented at a meeting, and the options in priority are listed. That goes down to about 20. So top of the list, Nelson City Council supply. Water be supplied at $1 per cube, a very cheap rate, especially when you consider that the Waimea Dam, when it was costed at $100 million, was $8 per cube stored, and about $17 per cube would actually be used. So let's look a little more detail regarding the possibilities of Nelson City Council supplying water to Tasman Waimea Plains. Alright, so you may read what's on the screen there while I'm talking through this briefly. Basically, if Nelson City Council and Tasman integrated their water supplies, Tasman urban supply would be secured immediately for many, many years. 5,000 cubes a day would meet the projected demand for the next 30 years. 10,000 cubes a day, which will require a bit of expense of Tasman District Council, would meet expected future urban demand for many, many decades into the future. And what would that require? In the first instance, it would require opening the valve at the bottom of Champion Road and integrating the two water supplies. So in the interest of keeping this video reasonably brief, I've skipped over things lightly, but it's all documented. It's all thorough research. I've spent 10 years reading material on this, so I consider myself well qualified to comment on it. In summary, the Waimea Plains has a vast groundwater resource. The rationing triggers are overly restrictive and they're not evidence-based, and they're also illogical in not having a separate river trigger compared to groundwater level triggers. That's crucial. So there seems to have been a lack of objectivity and analysis in looking at the resource and its management. Or if it has been done, it hasn't been articulated to the public. So what's happened? The irrigators, who by the way I think have been duped into this dam because the water resource is adequate, are paying what, $1,200–1,300 a year per share? That's very, very onerous. And the urban supply people, the people in the Richmond area, are paying the highest water rates in New Zealand. So, look, if you've got some comments, I would be very, very pleased to hear from you. The email address is shown there, waimeawater@gmail.com. So it's Murray Dawson signing off here, and I'll leave you with the last slide to contemplate for a few seconds. So this is where Waimea Plains water resource is. It is beneath our feet and it is vast. Thank you very much. I hope you have found this video informative and useful. It's Murray Dawson signing off.